I'm Noel with Noel's Frags, and I have some unfortunate news. It's an Aventus video. We're doing an Aventus video. Alright, I know, but you guys knew this was going to happen. This is the fragrance that launched 1,000 clones, okay? I had to talk about it in its own video at some point. I know I've dabbled and mentioned it here and there, but come on. So today we're going to kind of talk about Aventus a little bit and touch on some of the inspirations slash clones that I have in my collection, whether it be long-term or temporary, and just kind of go into the similarities, differences, which ones do I think are closer, and yada, yada, yada. Let's start with a little history. Come sit on Papa Noel's lap and let me tell you about the origins of Aventus. So Aventus came out in 2010. It was perfumed by Olivia Creed. It's under the House of Creed. And the initial launch, the initial batches, it was pineapple, oak moss, and it was a very smoky pineapple. And it dried down to birch. And the smoke mostly came from the birch tar. Well, as the years have gone on, and as Creed is notorious for, fragrances from one generation to the next change. See, Aventus in 2010 is not the same Aventus as this 2017. The smoke has been pulled out. Several other ingredients that were banned from the EU were pulled out, and just over the years it's changed. And then the batches themselves are different. So this company is just full of inconsistency. Full of it. But one thing it is consistent about is quality control. The labels of almost every single Aventus bottle I have begin to peel off. I don't know if you can tell because I stuffed it back down the other day. But it peels off. So they're consistent with that though. Might not smell the same as it did a year ago and 3 years from now. But the label will always peel off. One of the reasons people have turned to clones and alternatives and inspirations is because Creed will rob you blind given the chance. The retail bottle, like the retail pricing on these bottles, which are only 100 milliliters, which they dropped down from the 120s. I think it used to be like you got 30, 75, and 120. And then at some point they introduced the 50 and the 100, and so now I think you can just get it in hundreds and 50s. Don't quote me on that. You might still be able to get 30s. I'm a doctor, not a perfumer. 1, 2, 3 bottles in this room. I have another 200 milliliters in decants. I have another 400 to 500 milliliters in other like retail presentation bottles. So I got roughly 1 to 2 liters of Aventus, somewhere in there. More than 1, less than 2, I think. So I got a lot of it. I got a lot. I got the 10-year anniversary bottle. So I'm not saying I'm the ultimate authority on Aventus, but I would say I have a good understanding of the fragrance. As much shit as I talk about Aventus, I truly, truly enjoy the fragrance. The most of the bottles that I have and I enjoy are from 2017, and they're fruity, vanilla-y, a little bit of patchouli, a little bit of the birch. Not as heavy with the birch tar, obviously, because you're not getting the smokiness. But they're just gorgeous fragrances, and there's some oak moss throughout, kind of giving it a backbone. And despite the fact that there are so many clones, it is still able to stand on its own. And I can always tell, like, what's Aventus. Like, right now I have 4 fragrances sprayed on me. And it's so obvious, the contrast to each. And it's great because I'm going to tell you guys the difference in all of them. But the one I appreciate the most out of all 4 is Aventus. But that's not to say the other ones aren't good in their own right, and I will talk about them now. One of the most famous Aventus clones slash inspiration, whatever you want to call it, is Club de Nuit Intense from Armaf. Yes, Armaf. I no longer have that bottle because it did not work for me. The open was very lemony, and as opposed to like everything else, seems to use bergamot to try and capture the pineapple accord, which is an actual Aventus. Club de Nuit went with lemon, and that just didn't really work for me. And the dry down had this weird nuttiness to it that I did not get. The woodiness I was expecting. So I don't remember if I think I sold it or swapped it to somebody. But you know, it's an inexpensive fragrance, and people say it lasts for a long time. I didn't have it for more than, a few weeks, so I wouldn't say I have the greatest grasp on it. I'm not the authority on Club de Nuit Intense, but it wasn't for me. It wasn't the best clone in my opinion. Decent price, an okay fragrance for, what you're paying. If you like it, cool. If not, whatevs. I don't care. I just had to mention that one. I know I don't have it, but I had to mention it in this video because we're talking clones. And it's like the most famous one. I have had some fragrances from this house, but right now I just have the samples. And that is Parfums Vintage. I want to say this house started as essentially just a Ventus clone house. And they could have their own video because they have so many iterations. With Creed's inconsistency, you have people that try a fragrance and are like, oh man, I really enjoy this. You have, somebody that tried it in summer of 2018. Well, if you go try it today in 2021, it doesn't smell the same. Well, Parfums Vintage is the kind of company that's like, no, let's capture every moment that Creed Aventus ever had and bottle it 50 different ways and call it 50 different names. So they're good at that. They try to capture the essence, the zeitgeist of each batch of Aventus. So it's pretty close. It's pretty good. I can't really speak too strongly of it. I don't really wear the stuff. I just have some samples. And they could really be their own video, and it would take me forever to truly dig into the whole brand. I will say one of the ones that's most talked about is Emperor Extrait. That is said to be the closest to Aventus. I did have a bottle of that at one point in time. I found the open to be too much bergamot and not close enough because they really do a decent pineapple accord in several of their other offerings. I just found that offering to be too much bergamot. Didn't really give it a chance to macerate and kind of age and develop, and maybe it would have gotten closer, but I really wasn't into it. The bottle was in high demand, and I didn't want to lose my money on it, so I just sold it pretty much for what I bought it for. Easy come, easy go. These clones are abundant. You can find, a clone for any occasion, so I wasn't really stressed when I got rid of it. I have a lot of Aventus. A lot. So a bottle of something that's kind of close to Aventus but not quite there, I probably wasn't going to wear it. So off it went. So Parfums Vintage is a house to look into if you're trying to find a specific type of Aventus clone. If you just want a general Aventus clone, there are other things out there because this house actually gets pretty pricey. Bottles go for over $100. I want to say I paid like $120 for that Emperor Extrait back when I got it. So it's pretty expensive for a clone. So first up is Abercrombie & Fitch Authentic. Now this one has a fairly cool presentation, but it is more a departure from Aventus. Definitely more in line with like an inspiration. Instead of the bright pineapple, the juicy pineapple in the open, you get this like fuzzy pink pepper grapefruit. And then as you go into the mid, you get like this ISO Super E, kind of ambroxan a little bit, but I get more ISO Super E and pink pepper, which is like static instead of like a warm enveloping ambroxan, like a smooth ambroxan. This is not quite screechy, but it's definitely more abrasive, more astringent. I did a video and I talked about, like, I don't know if it's going to come out before this or after this, but basically I mentioned it in the giveaway that this is a little abrasive for my taste. So this is definitely not, if you're looking for something that's like close to Aventus or a 1-to-1, or this is not it. If you want something that's kind of fresher, inspired by Aventus, this could work for you. So definitely opens up with grapefruit instead of, the rich, juicy pineapple. And then in the dry down, you get more of a general woodsiness instead of like a patchouli, birchy woodiness, which is what you get with actual Aventus. You can find Abercrombie Authentic for $30 to $35. It was a blind buy for me. Not the worst blind buy ever, but still, I'm not super stoked about it, but I'm only out $35. And I did mention it's in a giveaway video, so I don't know if it'll be gone by the time I post this video or this video is coming first. But if this video comes first, surprise, I'm doing a giveaway video soon. This is one from a house that is pretty much almost exclusively an inspiration house or a clone house. And that is Mod 3 from Dua. So Mod 3, when I first got it, it smelled sweeter. It smelled like it had ambroxan instead of like the ambergris of Creed. And it was alright. It was pretty good. I just didn't really wear it that much because I have such an abundance of Aventus. If I want to smell like Aventus, I just pick up the bottle and I spray it. I've already doubled down and bought too much Aventus, so I might as well fucking use it. So I let this sit for a long time. I've had it roughly a year. And then I reached for it today when I was like trying some stuff on to shoot this video. And the open was not nearly as juicy as when I first got it. The ambroxan wasn't nearly as prominent. What surprisingly has taken over this fragrance is the oak moss. And that kind of caught me out of left field because that was not a dominant note when I first got it. So it just goes to show you that fragrances can change and evolve as they macerate. This hasn't been stored improperly. It's been in a cool, dark place. So it just kind of did its own thing. And off the cap, it smells a little sharper, but I can still smell the oak moss. But I sprayed it on, and the open was really dominated by that oak moss. It's now into like the late mid, like dry down phase. It's been on for maybe about an hour and a half, 2 hours. And you have some of the woodsiness coming out, a little bit of the patchouli, but I'm lacking the vanilla. I'm not really getting like a smooth vanilla. It's not really, it's definitely smoother than authentic, but it's not as smooth as the real thing. That's the Aventus right there. Whew. And it's good stuff. Like, yeah. So it's just definitely become an oak moss bomb, and that's unfortunate because even though oak moss is an Aventus, it's not, I wouldn't say the lead player. It's more of a backbone, supporting that juicy pineapple, supporting that smooth vanilla, supporting, with the ambergris in the base, like just kind of roots and holds it all together. While this just put oak moss center stage, and it just makes it smell like an 80s fragrance. It makes it smell very dated. Aventus is 10 years old, not 30 years old. So the 80s, that'd be over 30 at this point. Whew. Man, time does fly. But yeah, so Mod 3, I would say, is not the best. I know this house has several interpretations. They have Poseidon's Elixir, Poseidon 13, whatever. So they have their own variations of different batches of Aventus over the years with the smokiness increasing and decreasing. And I know a lot of people out there that love Dua, but as far as their Aventus clones go, I do not think Mod 3 is a very good one. I haven't tried too many of the other ones. So if you're looking at Dua to get an Aventus clone, I'd pick a different one. Don't go with Mod 3. And another thing that's it brings Dua down is the fact that these are 30 milliliter extrait de parfums. They usually last a while. It's still going strong, but it's fairly expensive, man. It's like $60 for $60+ I don't remember how much I paid, but it was probably about $60, maybe a few bucks more, for 30 milliliters of an extrait de parfum. But it's as much as Aventus per milliliter. Like, it's $2 a milliliter. It's the price of actual Aventus. So it's for something that's not even that close, you might as well just buy the real thing. Well, the niche and clone houses couldn't have the spotlight forever because the designer boys are getting in the game. This is Mont Blanc Explorer, and it is a new addition to my collection. And I would say it's not the best Aventus clone, but it's a damn good fragrance. I enjoy pink pepper, and this starts out with a blast of bergamot, and that fuzzy, staticky pink pepper. And it stays pretty sharp, but significantly smoother than Authentic. Like, so Authentic is this kind of screechy grapefruit. This is more of a smooth, spiky bergamot. It's both. I know it's like contradictory, but I don't know. It's zing. It's got some zing to it. But yeah, Mont Blanc Explorer, not the best Aventus clone, but it smells nice. It smells refined. It's like a fresher take. Because it definitely lacks some of the richness. I don't really get the vanilla in here. I don't get the heavier aspects. I don't really get any oak moss. And the woodsiness is a general woodsiness, not really getting the patchouli either. So it's definitely a designer's take on popular DNA. So they took Aventus's DNA and were like, yeah, well let's keep it modern. You know, that thing's 10 years old. Let's strip this oak moss away. Who wants that? Well, some people do want that. Well, what about the patchouli? That's too dark. Keep it fresh. And boom. Once you strip those elements away, you get this fresh take. So it's sharp. It's citric. It's not the closest clone. But if we're looking at it as an interpretation, a viable option. Mont Blanc Explorer. It's affordable. This was like, I don't know, $45-$50, and it's 100 milliliters, roughly about $50, I think, give or take, maybe some taxes in there. So a viable option for sure. So this last one is a fingerprint magnet. Let's rub it off a little bit. Afnan Supremacy Silver. Ooh, shiny. So when I first got this, I guess I got it in 2020 or 2019. Either way, it smelled like the newer batches of Aventus. It was very sharp. It was very citric. And it was good. I thought at the time, I was like, this is the closest thing I've smelt to the current formulations of Aventus. And as time has gone on, I still think it's pretty good and it's pretty close. But it has surprisingly taken on this smoky attribute. And I did not detect it when I first got the bottle. And I don't know if it's just, I've been huffing a lot of Aventus recently. But I want to say I did side-by-sides with this when I first got it. And I did not get smokiness. I got a very sharp, citric, Aventus DNA that was very close. But this one, I did keep it in the car. This is kind of a car clone because the cost of this fragrance is pretty affordable. It's about $40. I think I've seen it go for up to 50. But 100 milliliters, what is this? Eau de Parfum, Eau de Toilette. Eau de Parfum. So 50, 45, $50. And it definitely has a smokiness. I tried mixing some smoky fragrances in a decant with some Aventus and Poltergeist from the house of, it's like Hedonism or something. I don't remember. Heretic's Poltergeist. It smells like a burnt down house. And I put like a single spray of that and then like 5 milliliters of Aventus, and it just had this like rich, smoky smell to it. And this smells kind of similar to that now, which is surprising because, like I said, when I first got this, it was a very close interpretation and it wasn't smoky. It was very sharp. But now it has taken on some smokiness. So I can't promise if you get it today, it'll have that smokiness in it off the bat. because sometimes you got to spray a little bit and just let the fragrance mature, let the chemicals age, the aroma chemicals age, and it'll develop, new facets. So with the smokiness, it's definitely not. It's not a creamy smokiness. It isn't a sweet smokiness. You're not really getting juicy pineapple. You're getting kind of a grilled pineapple. And you're not getting the rich vanilla. But it's, in my opinion, of the ones I own, this is the closest. Afnan Supremacy Silver. It's in a decent price range. So if you want to try something reminiscent of almost a vintage batch. I don't have any vintage bottles, but I do have a vintage 2013 decant. And the smokiness in this is similar. It's not the exact same, but it gives off a similar smoky vibe to that 2013 Aventus, but with a lot of the modern Aventus in there as well. It's like you took a little bit of both and poured it into a bottle. So Afnan Supremacy Silver is at the top of the list as far as my collection's clones go. Aventus is a good fragrance. It's one of my favorites, and I will always have a bottle in my collection. Does it always deserve the hype that it receives? I don't know about that. I think it's a very good fragrance. I like I said, I love it. I'll always have it in my collection. Do I think everyone should worship the ground that like Aventus cast the shadow on? No, dude. It's a fragrance. This whole thing is about tastes, and some people might not like this DNA at all, and this video is just gonna piss them off because they're like, I'm tired of hearing about it. And that's fine, man. It's fine. Smell the fragrances you want to smell, but some people are curious about this and they want to know. Is it overhyped? Yeah, I will concede that because people won't shut the fuck up about it. I'm talking about it right now. But it's in my collection. I wanted to talk about it. Maybe it'll be important to someone. So it would be nice if they had a little bit better quality control over at Creed. They're a little bit more consistent with things. That'd be cool. And a little bit more affordable, because who the fuck is gonna pay, $495 for a fragrance? I have never paid full retail for a Creed bottle. There's plenty of gray market sellers out there. If you reach out to any of the fragrance groups, you can find a reliable seller that will sell you Aventus at a reasonable price. 100 milliliters of the newer stuff average around $220. As the bottles get older, the price goes up. Vintage, formulations, if you chase a certain, because basically the Creed has the batches engraved on the back or the bottom, depending on the bottle, because it's inconsistent. Who knows? The same batch could be etched here, it could be etched there, it's whatever. Enough shots at Creed, but the older it gets, the more it costs. I've seen bottles go for over $1,000 of, the earlier iterations, the 10s, the 11s. But yeah, man, it's a solid fragrance. Check it out if you're ever near, I think it's like Neiman Marcus sells it. That way you can just spray it for free and try it and see if you like it. So it's shaped, the perfume industry. It created the demand for clone houses. So Creed really is their own worst enemy. If they just made more affordable fragrances, they wouldn't have to compete with rip-offs of their own formulas. Just saying. Think about it. What's your favorite Creed clone? Let me know in the comments. Do you hate clones? Do you think clones are terrible? Or do you own a bunch of them? Who are your favorite clone houses? Let me know. Who are you guys spraying on? Leave it in the comments. If you enjoyed this video, throw me a like or subscribe to see more content. And as always, thank you so much for watching.